Hi YouTubers, this is Yara from the Spanish Classroom. In today's video I want to show you a comparison between 20-pound paper, 28-pound paper, and 32-pound paper. And the weight of the paper is important when you are printing, especially DIY inserts for your Filofax or your planner, okay? And we have a DIY fish inserts group on Facebook, and a lot of people have asked, what weight paper do you use to print your inserts? And different people have different solutions or different answers. And here I was able to find a 20-pound paper, a 28-pound paper, and a 32-pound paper. And I'm going to do this little video for you. The inserts that you see here are a trial that DIY Inserts offered for September of 2014. And these are for personal size of Filofax or planner. And they are a day on one page. The first paper that I would like to show you, and I'll remove the other two, is a 20-pound paper. This is the cheapest type of paper that Staples carries, I believe. At least the thinnest one. It's 20 pound. It says it right on the ring of paper. A couple of things that I wanted to show you. When I went to Staples, they gave me a sample of the 28 and the 32. I just asked and they gave it to me. And I already had the 20-pound. So I wrote with a Sharpie. I wrote 20-pound paper and then the name, the Sharpie, so I would know. I also stamped using my date stamper from Target and Stampin' Up! Ink Melon Mambo. I usually use Stampin' Up! Ink for everything. So that's what you see here. I stamped today's date, September 3rd, 2014, and September 7th as well. So I want to see how my paper does using a Sharpie, using ink, because I do use a lot of stamps with my inserts, and then I want to see how the ink of my printer worked, if it leaked through or not. So let's look at those 3 points. This is a 20-pound paper. This is the cheapest kind of paper I have found, and it's very, very thin. Let's look at the 3 things. Okay, Sharpie. Let's look at the back of it, and you can definitely see it. I'm not sure anybody writes with a Sharpie, or at least the thick type of Sharpie, but you can see through it. Then I also stamped the date using Stampin' Up, and I stamped it in both sides here. Let's look. You can definitely see how it bled through that Stampin' Up! Ink. And lastly, I want to see, when I am working on my inserts, I don't want anything bleeding through from the next day. So here we have September 10th on this column, and the back of this page, I'm going to fold it for you to see. We have September 11th, and you can definitely see September 11th, that it is the Thursday, September the 11th, the little face for you to do a happy face or a sad face or whatever you feel. You can definitely see it through. So among all of my papers, the 20-pound paper is definitely the cheapest, and it shows. Not my favorite at all. I'm going to put it to the side, and I'm going to move on to the next paper, which is the 28-pound paper. A couple of things that I need to make sure I tell you about before I start talking about this. When I printed the 28-pound paper, my printer heads were dirty, so it didn't print as black as it should have. I printed this before I printed on the 20-pound paper. I got too excited. So you can see it that it's a little bit brown. I will mention that because this is September 5th, and the back of it you have September 6th. You can see it just a little bit, but not enough to deter you from buying that 28-pound paper. However, this ink here is kind of brownish, so it's not the deeper or the darker black that it should have been. So even though you only see it a little bit, it is not quite as dark as it should have been. But it's up to you. So the 28-pound paper is definitely a nicer paper than the 20-pound. It's thicker, it's softer, it's kind of smoother. A couple of things that are going on here. I wrote with a Sharpie again. I wrote the number 28, so I would remember this was a 28-pound paper. I also stamped my date using Stampin' Up! Ink. And at Staples, when they gave me this paper, I stamped with some of they had 2 stamps there. One reads, "Correct with your child and return," and then staplescopycenter.com. So I used their stamps as well, because I didn't have my ink at that point. Let's see if this thing's bleed through. Oh, I also used a Pilot friction pen, erasable pen, and I just wrote pink there because that's the one I'm going to be using. Let's look at the back. The first thing that I want to look at is the Sharpie mark, and you can still see it. Then let's look at the date. You can see it a little bit. I am being very picky about this, but you can see it a little bit. Not as much as with the 20-pound paper, but you can still see it. With my pink pen right there, you cannot see it at all. I'm going to bleed through with my friction pen. And then the stamps that I borrowed from the copy center, you can see them a tiny little bit. Let me show you how they look right there. You can see them a little bit, but not too bad. I'm going to put the 20-pound paper next to it so we can see it. This is the back of the 28. It's on the bottom, and then the back of the 20-pound is on the top. Okay, 28, 20. And this is the date here. You can see it. And this is the date. So compare those two. Not too bad. Now let's look at this, the date itself. Just flip it actually. I am looking, okay, the 20-pound paper is on the top. This is September 10th, and I can see the 11th. This is the 28-pound paper. This is September 5th, and I can see a little bit of the 6th. So not too bad, but between the two of those, definitely the 28-pound paper is the better paper. We kind of knew that. We have one more option here for us, and this is the 32-pound paper. And this is beautiful paper, I have to say. It's thicker, obviously, but it's kind of crispier. I don't know, the white, it's much nicer. It feels very nice to the touch. I definitely like it. Because, I don't know, it's just nicer. Let's look at the same things that we looked at with the other two type of papers. Again, the Sharpie mark, I wrote 32. I stamped my date. I used my friction pink pen, and I used Staples inks. I'm also going to look to see if the September 9th information is bleeding through and coming through on September 8th. So let's look at the Sharpie first. I'm flipping my 32-pound paper, and I can still see the Sharpie right there. I'm going to bring the 28-pound paper. I'm going to keep it down there. You can see it a little bit less than with the 22, but you can still see it. I don't use Sharpies, like I said before, but I just wanted to see how something that aggressive looked with a 32-pound paper. The next thing I wanted to see was, let's see, the date. I stamped the date using Stampin' Up! Melon Mambo ink, and you can barely see it. I mean, barely see it. So that's a good thing for me. I also used my pink friction pen, erasable pen, and you cannot see it at all. Remember, you could not see it in the 28-pound either. And I did not do that test for the 20-pound. And then I used some of the copy center stamps right there, and you can see them a little bit. The red one a little bit more than the black one. Let's see, and the last comparison we wanted to do was, this is September 8th, and when you fold it, you have September 9 in the back, and I want to see if it bleeds through. Very little. Very little bleed through, and this one printed in the nice black, or the nicest black that I'm going to print in. You can see the grid, you can see the times, you can see this is for weather, and I feel. You can see all of that. You can read it perfectly. I think we have a winner. I definitely choose the 32-pound paper. The cost between the 32-pound paper and the 28-pound paper is not much. I believe it's probably $2 difference. So if you're going to spend $15, might as well just throw in another $2 and get the nicer paper. Oops, sorry, I grabbed the wrong one. This is a 28-pound paper. I like it that the difference between the 20 and 32-pound papers is not too noticeable. I mean, it's only 4-pound difference. But I think I would go, my favorite is the 32-pound paper, so that's what I'm going to go to my Staples. And I'm going to buy a ream and then finish printing all my inserts. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful to you in deciding. At least you'll be able to see for yourself and compare hand in hand. You know, I like to see things next to each other and make my own decisions. So, I hope you liked my video and you learned a little bit from it. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Hasta luego. Adiós.